On this episode of Mighty Car Mods, we're going to try and work out why the LEVORG has a noisy engine. Welcome to an episode of Mighty Car Mods that I hoped I wouldn't have to make, but unfortunately, the LEVORG engine sounds like this.
Doesn't affect oil pressure, doesn't affect anything it seems, but it is noise. And that means the motor's got to come out. Sucks, but it has to come out. Because there's no way, got to investigate whether it's actually a deal breaker for this particular motor or whether it can be fixed. If it can be fixed, that's great if it's something simple. Otherwise, it's like a full tear down or maybe just start again. Which I'm bummed about, but I also, the whole time we're building it, in the back of my head thought, there's so many moving parts to this, it could go, anything could go wrong. And it turns out something has, but just can't work out what it is yet. The joys of modifying and pushing the limits.
It actually sounded like this from the first time we started it, only I never realised. We drove it, we started it, we dynoed it, it was all good, and then as I was driving on the road, I just heard this slight noise, and I'm like, I cannot work out what that is. And then I went into a whole stage of engine being broken denial, which is where you try and make up all these reasons why your engine isn't broken. And you know what, it may not be, but I have to work it out. There is a noise, we have to work out what the noise is, and so, look, I'll just show you what happened. This isn't exactly how I envisaged my first drive going. My first drive involved going back on the hoist. So let's do a bit of investigation and see what went wrong. So step one is going to be check basics like pull the oil filter apart and just check for, well, pan for gold basically, so there's any bearing material in there. And if there's anything else obvious going on to do with oil supply, we have run a oil cooler, which could be part of why it's unhappy. And then I've got a couple of mates coming who have the same cars actually with turbo EZs that I've known over the years, and they're going to come and have a look with me as well for some extra brains. She's a bit sparkly. Panning for gold, look at that. Oh, look at it go.
Yeah, it sort of is about the same size as the flex mine was making.
Is that my bearing in there, you reckon?
I reckon there could be a decent chance, man.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Yeah.
Well, you're wearing a Subaru with a Subaru
Yeah, I had to wear the
engine on it,
appropriate
so it's
shirt.
like, seems pretty legit. Here's one that works over here. Here's what we've worked out so far. We've pulled out the paper and there is stuff in it, but it also looks like swarf, which can be from machining or can be from any of the million bits of engine that were messed with. So no like massive chunks that are obviously like, here's your bearing, but also chunks that really shouldn't be in there. So we're gonna keep digging in this oil filter and see what we can turn up. All right, so spark plug out. Looks pretty good. It's like one of those iridium ones, so it'll go forever in there. Well, not as forever in this car as it would in a normal car, but it'll go for a while. And so far, so good. All right, it's got oil in it. New filter, we're just gonna start it and see what happens. Good fuel pressure. It's not making a noise. Yeah. It's like still a noise, but it's so subtle. So I've just taken it for a drive. The noise sort of comes and goes. Bearing denialism, that's what I'm calling it. It probably has spun a bearing, it's probably damaged, chewed something, don't know. But the last thing we can do, because we have another spare oil filter, and thank you Castrol Edge, I have a bit of Castrol Edge, I am going to throw one more, basically give it one more oil change and just see, because we're here, boys are helping me, which is awesome, and we're hanging out, doing car stuff, which is kind of the point. In summary, we've chopped up a couple of oil filters. Let me show you what we've found.
No, this one looks pretty good, but it wasn't in there long.
That's clean. So that one is the one we just did a lap on. So this is the newest one that just went in today. just one sort of hit, just to get it hot and just see if it caught anything. We also cut up the original one, like the actual original filter. So that's the one with all the bad stuff in it. That's post dyno. But the original filter, I think, is one of these ones, maybe that one. And yeah, nothing in it. So after the dyno, lots of metal, which means maybe popped it on the dyno. Good times. So I've pulled the little sump off. Nothing in the pickup. All looks really clean, and not a great deal came out with that oil. But you can see the windage plate or baffled thingo. It's got really good oil pressure, so... Today's the day, people. This is coming out. Aaron's here because he's a legend. Give me a hand. This is a bit hard to do yourself, especially with the big H6. It's coming out, so we can try and work out what's wrong with it. That might be today or not, we don't know. Either way, we're going to lift it out, put it on the ground, and see if we can figure it out. Out she comes. And it just went in. This is all part of the fun though, isn't it, Aaron? This is not the first time you've had to pull an engine out after just putting it in, correct?
Definitely not.
Oh God, Subaru life. So this is where it sounded like the noise was coming from. This is the passenger side rocker cover. Aaron, do you want to do the honours? Yank it off. I don't think it's going to be anything super obvious, but you never know. We leak a bit of oil. They should just pop down. I mean, the cams are in it, so there's that. You know, it's more like if there was something sort of cracked or broken, obviously, but we might not know unless we start pulling the rest of the motor down. Doesn't look worn. Can you see anything obvious that you think would make a noise?
There's no scoring. No, nothing obvious.
Yeah. I think the heads, good chance the heads are all right. A lot of time and effort went into the heads. So if there was something, you know, not right to begin with, we probably would have caught it when we built it. And nothing's loose. We'll check all this, see if anything moves. We're going to take the sump off. It's got two sumps, like one little steel one and then the big aluminium one that goes around it. So we put on a stand and take the front timing cover off, flip it over, pull that sump off, and maybe we'll be able to see if anything's up there before we strip it down any further. It'd be nice to work out what it is before we actually completely strip it. Oh, listen to that.
I think she's ready to come off.
It's popped. Whoa. Nothing obviously noisy either. Apparently in these motors, like the guides can get a bit pissed off.
Yeah.
Like you can get issues with the guides. And that...
They're not loose.
No, it's all it's supposed to be.
Tension is solid.
Yep. Tensioner and tensioner. Yeah. Problem's going to be deeper, mate, isn't it?
Yep.
So here's where we're at. We've got the front cover off, the timing chain bit, but everything has to come off. To get this bit of the sump off, not that black bit, but the rest of it, you've got to take that whole cover off. I don't want it to get wrecked and sit around in dirt and dust, so I'm going to be a bit more organised, get some containers. So we're going to come back to this because we've got a couple other projects to get on with, but we will find out shortly what is wrong with the LEVORG engine. You'll find out straight away because you don't have to wait, but I have to wait a couple of days. This is Aaron. He's come all the way down from Queensland to give us a hand. What got you into EZs, man?
It actually happened at Power Cruise. I went...
Did you go in a fast one?
I did. Yep. Went in a H6 GC8.
Yep.
And man, I couldn't believe how well it went.
Was that one that Al put together?
Yep.
There you go. Yep. Small world in Queensland. They
That's
all know
it.
each other. And so you were already working with EJs, right? 4-cylinder stuff.
Yep. Yeah, that's mainly what I played with, like early on.
Yep.
But yeah, since that day, mate.
Just love it.
Yeah.
And so you're basically playing with H6s, kind of like a hobby in your spare time.
Yep. But I do other motors as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. So engine building is not foreign to you. So I got Aaron because I've actually chatted to Aaron a lot on Facebook, internet, all that sort of stuff, because he's been super helpful with giving me some ideas about what might be busted, and we ended up saying, man, just come down and give us a hand. So we've already pulled the front of the engine off with the other Aaron, Subaru Aaron, but now we're going to dig into the rest of the engine and you're just coming with us. We don't have any idea currently what's making the noise. We have some ideas, but we don't know for sure. So should we just rip into it?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Let's go. It's a big job pulling one of these EZ30s apart, significantly more work than their 4-cylinder relatives, which is one of the reasons why they aren't modified as often.
The costs of labour go up a lot when it takes twice as long to rebuild the thing. But when you're a little bit out of your depth, it's always worth getting some help.
We'll just flip the motor over.
Yep, towards me.
Yep, so we can check the lash. So the lash is just to allow for thermal expansion on the base of the cam.
Yep.
Okay, and that's...
I can see a film of oil in there, and that's a good thing, right? That's the oil's job.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, so that's pretty loose.
How many times over are we? Is that double what it's supposed to be?
No, so that's only a little bit over.
Maybe there's some top end noise, because to me it sounded like the noise was coming from back here on one side of the motor, sort of back here. And if you had a really noisy bucket,
so that's 0.43. But what happens is when you torque the head down, they close up a lot. Yeah. Okay. It's absolutely paramount that you check once they're torqued on.
Got it.
So we'll just need to pull the front of the motor off.
Yeah.
And get the cams out, and then muck around with some shims.
Although we have identified our clearances are a little on the high side on one side of the engine, there's always the possibility that the bottom end where the rods connect to the crank and the crank is held to the block has some damage. As we pull down more of the engine, it starts to give us some more hints as to what might be going on, and the good news is, so far there's nothing that points to bearing failure or anything more sinister and expensive. But I am still a bit worried because hundreds of hours of time and thousands of dollars of money have gone into this thing. But the greater the risks, the bigger the rewards, and big power doesn't come easy.
Okay, if it had any material go through it, you would see some pitting.
Okay.
Through here.
Yep.
So this is the most important surface.
Yep.
Oil pump looks good.
Looks clean. A bit of gold stuff did come out of it. That's why I was worried as well. Like when we first oil changed it after dyno, which is where I got a real hard time, it did have like a glitter.
Yeah.
No real big chunks. A little bit of stuff from the oil filter. But apparently, I mean, you speak to lots of different people, you get different opinions, but they said it's kind of normal.
Yeah, for a new motor, it's definitely possible to get some debris here. Yep.
All right. But that's
yeah,
good news.
that's good.
So best case, we're going to have...
I've seen worse.
Best case, we're going to have a bottom end that's not stuffed, and maybe some issues with the head that we can potentially fix.
Yep.
Best case.
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's see what we find. Best case scenario is we've just got issues with the valve train. So the lashing is just, for whatever reason, it's just wrong. If we're lucky, bottom end stays as is. So this goes from being a huge job of pulling everything apart to just basically resetting the top end. So we're going to go to specs that Aaron's used in the past and has worked. We've got to go and grab some spare buckets and shims to adjust everything. We may not be able to use the ones that are here, we might need to replace them, but we have to go through and measure everything first. So we're going to go get our replacement buckets and shims, then first thing in the morning we're going to come back, re-measure everything and reset it to a point that Aaron's happy with, and fingers crossed that will fix this engine.
I got my hands on a few spare buckets so I could mix and match with what I have to try and reduce the noise. They come from the factory with a number that helps identify how thick the top of the bucket is, which depending on which one you put in affects the lash. Aaron is making good use of the feeler gauges to check all the clearances. It's a slow process, but it's worth doing properly.
We have checked the lash on the driver's side, in our case the right-hand bank. Now we're going to flip the motor over and check the passenger side or left-hand bank. That is where we think we had the noise. So far, Aaron has checked everything in here and he's like, you know what, it's pretty good. There's one that's like borderline, but it is within spec. And within spec is what we're looking for. That's what they write in the factory manual, and that's what we're going for. So we're going to flip him over and check this side. We've checked the lash on the exhaust cam. We found 3 that are borderline. So we're going to use the buckets that we got for spare parts and see if we can just dial it in to be a little bit closer to where it should be for factory spec.
To swap in the different buckets, we have to remove the exhaust cam and then gently remove the buckets one at a time. Then we can swap in thicker or thinner buckets to try and get the clearance to the right place. Then we've got to put it all back together and check it again.
It's easy to get lost in engine building stuff. I find it a bit confusing because there's so much going on. And also, if you get it wrong, it's just an expensive and a bad time. This is an exhaust bucket. It's shimless, which means you don't adjust it, you have different ones. And they've got little numbers in there, which we got a shot of before, that tells you sort of like the size or thickness of it. And the idea is that it goes over the valve spring and over the valve and all that sort of stuff and sits in there, and then that's sort of what the cam presses against. So what we've been doing is checking the spacing essentially between the cam lobe or the back of the cam lobe and this bucket. Now, because these ones are a little bit not exactly where we want them, we're going to change them. We've got a couple of spares and we're going to change and adjust the size of these. You will find these in modern good engines. It's a lightweight and a good way to do it. Older engines have different systems. You can look up and see what yours has got. hydraulic things and shims and all sorts of stuff. But this is the way that this one works. You have to take the cam out to change it. Some systems you don't. And we are going to adjust this by putting different buckets in there and then measuring again. And if it's wrong, we'll take it off and measure it again and keep shifting it until we have it exactly within the spec that we're looking for.
Some quick maths helps us select the correct bucket to get all the tolerances within spec. Then we have to reassemble the whole engine. That means every bit of gasket schmoo we removed has to be reapplied. Everything needs to be cleaned, and we'll need to use a torque wrench to tighten all the bolts correctly. I'm really hoping that this will solve the noise and I'll be able to put some kilometers on the LEVORG and get it back onto the dyno. Aaron did an awesome job helping me with this, and now it's time to put the finishing touches on it so I can get it all back into the car.
We have successfully re-bucketed or re-shimmed the exhaust side of our head, and we're hoping that gets rid of our noise. So now it's the very long and laborious process of putting this entire engine back together, then putting it in the car, then putting all the turbo gear back on it, wiring, fuel, basically do the whole thing again. So this is an enormous amount of work, which is probably going to take a week. So I think we're going to use some magic of editing and some magic of time lapse, and in about 25 seconds, we'll be ready to start it. Thanks, Aaron. Good on you, man. It's going back in, people. Gearbox is ready. Clutch is on the back. There. It's going in. It's late because I got a deadline.
But there's a problem. I cannot get the clutch to engage on the fork, meaning I can't shift gears.
Here's an update. Why is the gearbox out? Because I had mad problems, hello grease, mad problems with the little retainer that holds the release bearing in, which you'd normally see there. So that's going in. So the engine, I tried to get the engine in with the gearbox in place, failed, broke that thing, had to get a new one. Extreme Clutch sent me one, which was awesome, thank you Dion. And now, instead of doing the engine again because the engine's in place, I'm gonna do gearbox out. And because Aaron's a freaking legend, he's come afterwards to give me a hand. Because he does this stuff with his eyes shut and I lose sleep over it, which is like the opposite. Any 6-speed wisdom, Aaron? What are you doing right now?
Just trying to line up this twin plate clutch.
It's got a different looking, what's the thing called, alignment tool?
Yeah, it's a special billet one. It's kind of cool.
So the issue is you got 2 clutch discs in there instead of just the one, and they both have to line up like perfectly together. But that's looking good now, hey? Because if that slips in and out easy, then so should
gearbox.
that. Have you ever had issues with this thing before, like I have?
Once on a twin plate clutch where the clutch aligning tool that came with the clutch kit was actually too short, and the front plate got bent when we tried putting the gearbox back in.
Oh god.
So the car wouldn't actually grab gear or wouldn't drive. That was not fun.
I'm linking Aaron's YouTube channel here, by the way. So click the thing. It's got a few Subaru related videos happening. We're in, people. Does it feel like a clutch?
Well, I mean, I can't apply pressure in the way that the slave cylinder would.
So the clutch fork up there has to go donk to do that little circlet thing that I was battling with for ages, which is this. I don't know if I've actually shown you. It's this. And then that goes inside the front cover because it's twin plate 6-speed things. And there's a circlip that goes around that. And these all got sort of bent and wrecked, which is my own fault. Just failed at it basically. And so what happened is when we try to engage the clutch fork to sort of seat it, it's gone ting like that. That's what happened. So basically, we had a bad time with the clutch, essentially. But thanks to Aaron's help and his experience of doing this so much, I'm always impressed by the experience of people that do this for a day job, day-to-day basis. That can go in the bin, and the new one, which came with a bunch of instructions, which are actually really helpful, is now in. So that means that if the engine's working and the gearbox is working, then all I got to do is put everything else together. That all has to go back on. The turbo has to go on, the starter, the pipes, the dump, the exhaust, everything, and then everything that's in the car, and then the LEVORG will work again. Gearbox is back in, shafts are back in. Now I just got to put everything else that we made for the car, all the custom stuff, back in. Turbo, intercooler, exhaust, wire, everything, and then bleed it, and then remember to put gear oil in it, and remember to put engine oil in it. Very important. So I'm really pushing myself with this one. The reason is, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m, I have to get the Brumby to Sydney Motorsport Park because it is Subinats, which is like Australia's biggest Subaru thing. They do it once a year. It's a pretty big deal. And Subaru asked me to bring it because it's going to be raffled off soon, and they wanted people to see it. They're bringing their museum collection of cars as well, which is pretty cool. So it's tomorrow morning at 6 a.m, and the Brumby is working. It's got a busted fuel tank, but it's still running. And the LEVORG has been in my shed for ages. Aaron, or the two Aarons, have been helping a lot. So I've basically got from now until tomorrow at 6 a.m. to see if I can get the LEVORG working, because my ultimate dream is actually to tow the Brumby in with the LEVORG. It just fits under the legal tow limit for the tow bar, which is handy, but because the Brumby's so light. But I don't know. I'm just about ready to start it, actually. I haven't put everything back in, like all the cooler pipes and accessory belts and coolant, because I kind of just need to start it. It's the moment of truth to listen to it and see if it makes a noise. Yeah, so this literally is the moment of truth. If it doesn't make any noise, I can put it all back together and then like madly basically service it ready to go. If it makes noise, I actually don't know what I'll do. So we'll see. It's coming together, people. Pipes on. Blow valve's not on yet. Just got to tighten up some clamps around here. I've put the hot side on, the turbo's on, all the V-bands are tight. Intake's required. I will plumb the coolant in because I realised even if it makes noise, I still need to move the car off the hoist. So it can do a noisy drive to Super Garage or somewhere else where I can store it up while I work out what to do. So the only thing that's going to give me any grief is the accessory belt, actually, because this tensioner does not want to play nice. You brought me remember it spat the belt on the dyno as well. So, oh man, it's just hot. It's been a long day. I'm determined to at least get it started, if nothing else. And the ultimate victory lap will be taking it to a huge Subaru show. So let's see. Still going. Okay, it's all back together. I've put oil and coolant and water and everything in it. And now I've got the Haltech NSP software up. Moment of truth. Injectors are off. All I'm doing is cranking and seeing if I can get oil pressure. We might hear noises, we might have a bad time, or it might just work and start and run. Once I know I've got good oil pressure, then I'll actually try and start it. Awesome. Oil pressure's coming up, you can see it there. So I'm confident to start it with some fuel in it. But before I do that, I want to give it a proper health check. I want to make sure it's got oil and got coolant and got everything in it, and all the levels are good. I'm going to try and drive the thing.
It's been more than a few weeks and heaps of work that's all boiled down to this moment.
Moment of truth, let's go. Come on, LEVORG.
But not terrible, and not as bad. This is good news, people. This is good news. Up in the way. Right, gonna idle it. Just make sure nothing leaks out of it. Check all its essentials, and drive it. It's early and it's time to go. It's going to be a big day. So far so good. The LEVORG is towing the Brumby. It's early in the morning, it's very foggy, very tired, because that's been a big 24 hours, but it's going to be totally worth it. Everything's going good. It's good news.
This is my favourite thing about a car like this. Extensively modified, big power, all-wheel drive, and can still tow a trailer with another car on it. The all-roundness is by far its biggest strength, and I'm so happy to be able to drive it again.
G'day, mate. I made it. Sydney Motorsport Park. A beautiful morning. Everything's been going great. Good coolant temps, good oil pressure, no weird noises. Still a noisy engine compared to a stock one, but apparently that's to be expected when everything's forged and knocks around. When it warms up, it quietens down, which actually now is the case. Before, the noise was so loud, it was sort of masking my ability to hear any of that. So yeah, it appears healthy. I guess now we just put some Ks on it and enjoy it.
We have arrived. So cool.
Well, let's get unloaded. Never owned any like show and shine cars, but I got pole position. Mostly because I was here before anyone else because I had to drop the Brumby off, but yeah. It kind of hit me that the LEVORG's kind of finished and detailed and nice enough to do that. Maybe all the detailing and paint protection was worth it in the end. It's covered in handprints all over the bonnet from leaning on it and trying to fix the thing, but it got here. I think it's got a tiny exhaust leak, but aside from that, perfection. All right, let's go check out some other Subarus.
Brumby, VRZ, 22B, STI.
We've worked on a bunch of different cars this year. Some have been straightforward and some have fought us hard. The LEVORG has been well over a year of my life, from buying a base model up north to building it and then rebuilding it and then fixing it again. It all adds up to thousands of hours in the shed, under a car fixing, fabricating and making stuff. Then spending the remaining hours of the day daydreaming up ways to do it better or asking friends for help in areas where I don't have the skills. The part that felt really good about getting to this meet was that a show like this is a celebration. Sure, it's just cars and they are just metal boxes at the end of the day, but there is something about the shared experience. Whether that's just driving, the aesthetics of it all, or how it is for me, the project. It's the planning, the execution and the learning along the way. Getting your project running, using it for its intended purpose and enjoying the parts of life that opens up for you. The LEVORG tested me and I considered pushing it into a corner and leaving it there. But in the end, I'm really glad I persevered.
So, that's it. The Brumby now goes through an engineering process for New South Wales. So everything has to be checked off. It's all been approved, but it has to be inspected. And that's a bit of a long process. So once that happens, then all the information will go out about when the car will be raffled and can be owned by someone, which is pretty exciting. So, gonna go pick it up, take it back to the shed, tidy a few things up that I want to fix to make it as good as I can possibly get it, and we're done. See you, Brumby.
We're now going to go for a little drive in LEVORG and see if it still works button.
What's your button?
It's one thing to get here, but it's another thing if it'll actually now get home again. That's always the mission, isn't it?
That's right.
Say hello, boys.
Hey, mate.
Hello, mate. How you doing? How are you?
Love this car.
Thank you.
You both of mine for this.
Oh,
amazing. Nice to see a quad lock case. Nice taste.
Absolutely.
Good job. See you, mate.
Have fun, guys.
Thank you.
There it is.
All right, so Martin, we're started. We're running. Hey, boys. We are running. LEVORG is going. Hey, boys and ladies. Well, Martin, well done. The LEVORG was a huge journey.
That was a nice victory lap, actually, being able to drive it to like the biggest Subaru event ever.
Yes.
Drop the Brumby off. People
Yes.
are going to enjoy that all day. I'm going to go and train my dolphin.
What?
A bit. I'm a dolphin trainer in my spare time. Everyone knows that, dude.
Doesn't that
How
mean-
do you not know that? No, that's waxing. I'm training.
Oh, okay.
It's very, very, very different.
A different process.
Very different.
Very good, Martin. Well, it's been a huge job as always. It seems like none of the jobs we do are simple anymore, are they?
It's going to get me home, which is awesome. It's been an absolutely excellent vehicle for the day. So stoked with it.
Amazing.
So thank you for watching, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
LEVORG is back in action. I'm just going to drive it, put some Ks on it, and just get to enjoy it now.
Yes. The Supra's on the hill up there.
Oh, your one? Yeah, hang
Yep,
on.
so keep going up. Next driveway up. Next one going.
Sure.
All right, see you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.